don't know if anybody has said this before, but I have a theory that Asha from Wish is the fairy godmother from Cinderella. Now, there are a couple of reasons why I say this, but before I do, I have to break down Wish as a film first. So Wish was set in the kingdom of Rosas, and Rosas was started by a man named Magnifico. Now, as a child, Magnifico experienced a lot of loss and insecurity, and wanting to avoid that as an adult, he created a place where people could come and feel secure. And as he started to build this place, more and more people came, and he was eventually selected as their leader slash king. Now, Magnifico is kind of unique because as a king, the only thing he really requires of his subjects is their wishes. Now, that might not seem like a very big deal, and for a lot of them it's not, because he does keep the wishes safe, and you can see those here in his hands. He keeps them in a castle, and once a year, Magnifico grants the wishes of one of the citizens in their village. Now, the story actually follows a girl named Asha, and on the date of her 17th birthday, Asha is duly excited. One, because her great-great-grandfather is turning 100 years old, and two, because she has an interview to be the king's new apprentice, and the apprentice gets to help manage the wishes of all of the people in the kingdom. So Asha goes to her interview. She's obviously quite nervous, and there's a moment between her and Magnifico where Magnifico starts to open up about what he does. He tells her about the magic and how he's the only person in the village allowed to use it. He shows her a dark relic. It's a book that he collected full of dark spells, and the most special thing he shows her is the room full of wishes. Now, as they're in the room full of wishes, Asha takes the opportunity to ask King Magnifico if he would be so generous as to grant her grandfather's wish, namely because he's turning 100 years old and it would mean the world to him. Now, keep in mind, this is an interview, and he has had people in the past obviously take advantage of their apprenticeship and their proximity to him to ask for these things. And so he thinks it's a bit forward and is like, hey, most people wait until after they get the job to start asking for stuff, which to me, I kind of get. But she's kind of like, hey, opportunity knocks. We're here in this room. I just thought I would ask, you never know unless you try, kind of thing. And so he's like, no, not really. And obviously you don't get the job. And she's like, I kind of figured that. But if you're not going to grant my grandfather his wish, would you please give it back to him so he can try to make it come true himself? This is where Magnifico tells her, absolutely not. Once you give me your wish, it's mine. Now, the thing about keeping a wish is that the people who give them away no longer feel compelled to pursue them themselves. Sometimes they forget the wish altogether, which is the case in a lot of instances, or they remember the wish but vaguely, i.e. they know they like music, but they never knew, or at least they don't remember that they wanted to create music to inspire people. Now, part of the reason that Magnifico says he keeps the wishes is that because unmet and ungranted wishes can become dangerous. And Asha's kind of like, I think that's BS. So this is actually where the movie turns left. Because once Asha leaves and she realizes that all of these wishes belonging to all of these people are never going to be met, even though you have an individual here who has the means to do it, and he chooses to do one out of obviously hundreds per year, that's kind of messed up. And she starts to realize that their infallible king might not actually be so perfect. So after the interview, Asha goes home and she explains to her mom and grandfather what happened that day. And she apologizes to her grandfather, stating that she's probably the reason that he will never have his wish granted. And it's okay, because the grandfather's like, that's sad, but I actually don't even remember what it is. And she's like, that's kind of messed up. Later on, though, she's by herself and she sees the brightest light ever. And she goes to pursue this light, and she finds this little guy, a star, a literal shooting star. And this star embodies all of the characteristics that you might think a star would have. He's playful, mischievous, and he's magical. So side note, if you like Easter eggs and you love Disney movies, then this is the movie for you, because this movie has almost every Disney Easter egg that you can imagine. And I am positive that I didn't even see all of the ones that were in there. Some of the obvious ones include the lore of the shooting star, people like Peter Pan, mentions of Dumbo, and some other more relevant things that I'll get to at the end of the video. But one of the things about the shooting star is that he grants people and animals the abilities to talk. And he also has the ability to grant wishes as well, because that's what stars do. Now back to King Magnifico. Across the land, King Magnifico is freaking out because he saw this big ball of light and he doesn't know where it came from, and he knows it was magically motivated, and this is a bad thing because nobody else in the kingdom is allowed to do magic other than Magnifico. And so he's wondering what happened. He puts out an APB on whoever it was who did magic in the village because it's illegal. And we all know that girl is Asha. Now, fast forward. At the end of the movie, once King Magnifico is defeated and turned into possibly the mirror from Snow White, Asha gets a very special gift from the star, and that gift is a wand. And the wand is given to her because of all of the people in the movie. Asha acts a bit impulsively, but ultimately very selfishly. She goes on to help her grandfather by trying to get his wishes and releasing all of the wishes back to the villagers so that they can try to accomplish those things on their own. But this endears her to the star, and the star presents her with this gift. Now this is where I say Asha is actually the fairy godmother, but she's this fairy godmother, not this fairy godmother right here. Although, if you were to look at that picture, it does appear to be quite similar to the fairy godmother that we saw in the previous picture. But the reason I say that Asha is actually this fairy godmother is because the timelines make sense. This story of Wish takes place in the 1300s. There is a part in the live action Cinderella, though, where Whitney Houston's fairy godmother is talking to Brandy's Cinderella, and she's talking about her wand being rusty. She hasn't used it in a little while, and she tells Brandy that she's been doing this for over 600 years. Now, Cinderella came out in the 1990s. Wish came out in 2024 or 2023. I don't know when it came out, but the setting for that movie was in the medieval time, so 12 to 1300s. So if you do the math, it would make more sense that Whitney Houston, who's been a fairy godmother for over 600 years, would have actually been Asha from Wish, not the fairy godmother from Cinderella, although they favor each other. But what also makes more sense is that when she tells Brandy that she's rusty and she's having a little problems using her magic at first, she's got to stretch it out, it's because she had no need to be a fairy godparent. And that's because she had been training this fairy godmother and these fairy godmothers. And as a result, she would have had no reason to be using her magic, at least for humans, but maybe just for training. This is why she was a bit rusty, because she had been taking a break from helping humans for a very long time. Now, she uses her magic for training, obviously, because we have an entire core of fairy godparents, but she herself hadn't had an actual charge for centuries, and this is why she appeared to be a little bit rusty. But she came out of retirement just to help Brandy/Cinderella. Anyways, drop your thoughts in the comments, tell me what you think of this headcanon, and I will see you guys in my next video.